Welcome everyone to the Global Mindfulness in Education Summit. I'm really excited to introduce you today to Robert Bridgeman. Robert is coming to us from the south of France, but he's originally from the Netherlands and works globally really, but mostly in those two countries. He is a trainer for the Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute, which works with Google and Stanford University. He runs retreats with his company Terra Nova Center for Wellbeing, and those retreats are in multiple languages, so we'll have details of how you can find out more about those. And he also runs Bridgeman, which does training for corporate and universities and things like that in the Netherlands. So we'll have all that information so you can contact him. So welcome, Robert, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Great. So Robert, I know you have a couple of books, but they're in Dutch, so I won't be able to pronounce the titles. But could you just tell us what the titles are and what they're about?
Yeah, well, the books are all about personal transformation. And the first one, Start vandaag met lichter leven. It's about how to achieve how to live a lighter life. And the other books are about meditation, about breathing technique we've developed. We have an academy for mindfulness trainers, but also for transformational coaches. So the last book I've written, the sixth one, is about transformational coaching. And we haven't published any books in English yet, but they will be in the future.
Yes. Yeah, great. So we look forward to, well, I'll look forward to reading them when they're in English. So tell us a little bit about, first of all, how did you get into this field? Maybe what was your first experience with mindfulness or with this field in general that made you create all these companies and do this work?
Yes. Well, in 11 years ago now, 2007, 2008, I was working as a managing director for a firm in, we provided services to construction firms. And I was, well, quite different than today, different I looked in my body weight, but definitely in how I thought and how I lived. And I was your typical manifestation, eager for manifestation person. Always wanted more, bigger. I consumed a lot of alcohol and yeah, I bought companies, small companies, but it was always about creating this empire, and it didn't work. I was married at the time, and I was so out of balance in many ways, physically, emotionally, mentally, definitely spiritually, because I didn't want to have to do anything with anything that was spiritual in any way. That resulted, that not being in balance resulted in first in a conflict in my company, and I was with with a group of people, and basically they were fed up with throwing me out, which was hell back then and a blessing today. And my wife, after 8 years, she said, okay, this is enough. I have enough. I'm finished. I'm done. So in a very short period of time, I lost my work, I lost my business, I lost my wife, and my home. And luckily, we didn't have children. I have now with Monique, my partner since 10 years. And basically, I started to look for, as a child, I was different. I was very sensitive, very creative, very vulnerable. And being different than most people interpreted it. So it was a smack to my ego happened. I started to go back to my childhood, and I figured, hey, there is a different reality from the reality I'm living, and I want to find out what that is. And first, I started with desk research, all these religions and mystical schools, and started to do online courses. everywhere I looked, I found the word meditation. And one day I typed in Google meditation in the place where I lived, and I found this. He's deep in his 80s now. He's still my meditation teacher. Dingaman Boot is his name, and he used to be a monk in Thailand and Burma in Vipassana meditation. And I started meditating with him. And the first time I meditated in his center, I felt like I'm home. You know, I've done this for many times. I know what this is. I understand this. And then I started to change really rapidly. I lost 30 kilos of body weight in 6 months. I lost 30 kilos of and I started to practice. And then the practice took me to Asia, to Nepal, to Thailand. We lived in my current wife Monique and I lived in Vietnam for 2 years, and yeah, I've been practicing ever since. So it was a personal crisis that actually took me on to brought me on this path.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. An amazing story. So tell us, Robert, a little bit about what your so you're working kind of with these big corporate companies and big universities and things. What are you seeing? Are there trends globally? I mean, it seems mindfulness is very trendy right now, and you know, from preschool to university and corporate and hospitals, everybody wants to learn about this. How do you feel about that? And have you noticed any other trends in the area?
Yeah, there are, and I work all around the globe. So from England to Saigon and Singapore to here in France. And there is a global shift in human consciousness going on. We are changing, and with that, people are changing, companies are changing, corporates are changing, governments are changing, and what I see is more and more corporates are looking for ways to enhance the happiness, the well-being of their employees, but also the resilience, ability to deal with stress. The burnout rates are through the roof globally, and there's actually two developments going on. And one of them is functional. So many corporates and large organizations worldwide, they're looking for evidence-based methods to improve the life and work quality of their employees. And mindfulness, of course, with all the brain research that has been done in the past 30, 40 years, it's very much evidence-based now. It looks very proven with all the brain research, even though as every scientist that is in this field will tell you, it's still thin, the research that we have. But it's a lot. You know, there's over 1,000 independent publications to be found in PubMed, so scientific publications worldwide per year. So there's a lot of research going on, small studies, but still, and there's more and more meta studies coming. And so these organizations are looking for a way to improve their workforce. That's one side of it. The other side of it is the ethical side of it. And because mindfulness without ethics is not mindfulness. It doesn't have anything to do with mindfulness in my perception. And what we see is that more and more organizations are looking for purpose, are looking for meaning. People are looking for meaning, and are looking for a way to connect to them, to enjoy, find a way to be more in the now, and practice for that. We all know, of course. And so I see those two going hand in hand. The functional side of mindfulness, they are looking for ways to reduce stress only and increase, and do not understand the ethical part of talking about. And there's organizations such as SAP and Google really understand what this is all about. And this leads to a next step with it, which is a global trend of allowing. You can have a university, you can have a government organization, or what is the meaning? What is our purpose? Where are we heading? And organizations are looking for it, and they're also starting to understand the well-being of people is very much related to purpose in life and meaning. So what I see on a global scale is more and more trainings. Many of them are mindfulness-based, that are about finding meaning in yourself.
Right.
It's a very positive trend.
Great. It's good to hear that so many companies are looking into these types of programs. So what kind of challenges do you foresee, as this spreads? You mentioned there's a lot of research that's come out, but on the smaller scale, and we know some of the bigger studies are coming through now. But do you foresee any challenges? I guess what you mentioned about the ethics would be one thing that might come up.
Yeah, and also it's become so popular. Can call themselves mindfulness coach or mindfulness training, and anyone they are just practicing mindfulness and teaching mindfulness. And practicing mindfulness is much more about much more than mindful emailing or mindful eating or mindful walking. It's a practice of meditation. It's a practice of basically of looking inside, searching inside yourself, as they say in the program that we use, where you discover who the parts of yourself you are not. Basically, you're not your thoughts, you're not your body, you're not your emotions, and discovering who you really are in essence. And as the more you reach that core, the more you, in essence, you are love. So anything that is not love, stress, fear, insecurity, conflict, burnout, anything that is, the more you identify with the love. That's basically what I would call a practice. But you need to practice for that. It's not something you can do in 2 minutes a day, or in 5 minutes a day, or in 10 minutes a day. You need to practice and meditate. So, and that's the biggest risk. It's becoming a pill.
So tell us, Robert, you work with mindfulness, incorporating emotional intelligence or melding these two things together. Tell us a little bit about what that means and what that looks like practically.
Yes, so done within Google, and within Google they were looking for a way to motivate people to practice meditation and to practice mindfulness. And they found a link. Dan Siegel, who's also in, he wrote a book called Emotional Intelligence, and within Google they found a link between emotion and Google says there's 5 key components to emotional intelligence. It starts with self-awareness, self-management, empathy, motivation, and social skills. And they figured, hey, self-awareness, being able to understand who you are and how you think, how you react, how you come across to others, mindfulness, looking inside. So self-awareness can be enhanced. Self-awareness can be enhanced by practicing mindfulness. And self-awareness leads to self-management. And practicing mindfulness, it also brain research shows it enhances empathy. And you can use different practices within mindfulness to work on motivation and communication and interpersonal relationships. And this way it also builds social skills. So that's the big intelligence, and then they started to work on a curriculum with all sorts of exercises and how to enhance all these key competencies of emotional intelligence, including political awareness, including resilience, including focus, of course. How to develop them in a way that suits people within large organizations. And this became the Search Inside Yourself program, which is now worldwide, globally, and organizations such as SAP, they adopted it. And so what we have now is a way to train emotional intelligence inside. My background is HR. In the past, we were always looking for ways to help people who were insecure, or managers to cope with their workload, or people to deal with stress or with feelings of anxiety. And now we have a way to help build that from the inside out, instead of teaching people skills,
Right.
changing them from inside out. And this is beautiful. I find this very beautiful and important. So it's not a skill set. It's a yeah, you transform as a human being, and that's the power of this practice. That's the power of mindfulness.
So Robert, tell us a little bit about, so you're from the Netherlands, so, and you're living in France. Are there any parts of the cultures in those countries that you think especially link with mindfulness? Some of the traditions in those countries that we're now seeing come through, or do you think they're taking more of a global outlook in the Netherlands and also in France?
Yeah, well, that's one thing. It is, you know, the Netherlands is a very small country, and used to be and still is a trading company. Most Dutch people speak multiple languages, and we have a strong international orientation. And so when something new comes in, such as mindfulness, we pick it up pretty fast. But it is also, Dutch people are very logical people, and it's something it's not very people pick it up. Of course, there are plenty spiritual people who look at things differently, but for most people, definitely people within organizations, when it's tangible, definitely when it's evidence-based or scientifically substantiated, people will do it. And when they understand what they are doing, they will feel, hey, there is a return on investment. They will put in the time and the effort necessary. So for Dutch, being very pragmatic, mindfulness makes sense because it's logical. You mean, it makes sense. Oh yeah, okay, let me do it, and it makes sense. I will have the benefits of it. For French people, what I see here is French people have a difficulty when it comes to religion. Mindfulness is connected to religion, somehow still, even though we all know it's not, and at the same time we all know from. Right? That makes it a bit more difficult, and it also depends on what part of France you are. Big cities, it's like Holland. You know, people like it and practice it, and it becomes a trend. And go into the country, to step in to practices such as mindfulness or meditation. So I see a difference in the French and the Dutch mindset. Yes.
Yeah, interesting. So tell us a little bit about the retreats that you're running. How long are they, and what kind of things do people do on the retreats, or what are the expectations or intentions of the retreat?
We have different sort of, we have meditation retreats, which we try to offer retreats to working people, or to people within corporate companies that are not too long. They are about 8 days Vipassana retreats, not the Goenka Vipassana, but the Mahashi Vipassana, which is a Buddhist Burmese originated Vipassana style, and it's brought all very modern. It's maybe the best word. Okay. And so these are meditation retreats. You start early in the morning and in the afternoon, and there's meditation until the peak, and you don't interact with other people, and you go inside. And we live on we have 7 acres here of land. We live in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of everywhere. There's only green around with here and there a neighbor. So this is a great place for people to really go in deeply and practice. And we also have transformational retreats, which is much more in the coaching healing, where people, well, they have something they want to work on. And this can be a childhood trauma. This can be behavior that's not working for them. This can be a relationship that's working for them. And in the past 11 years, we've developed techniques to deepen those traumas. Because what I feel is mindfulness alone enough for personal development. Because with mindfulness, you get, and meditation, you gain a deeper insight in who you are. You gain a deeper insight in how you respond in situations, how you feel, how you think, how you're conditioned. You connect with your core. It's a way to develop loving kindness. It's a way to develop compassion. It's a way to develop equanimity. Fantastic, but still, it's not a therapeutical way. So if you have bigger issues, you don't take them away by mindfulness the way we practice it in the West, right? I'm sure if you practice it once in a row, and also clear out deeper traumas or deeper imprints, but it needs more. So that's when, at one point in my career, about 10 years ago, I started to do research in, okay, how can I add to the mindfulness and use the mindfulness and meditation as to embed, right? To raise consciousness and to raise self-awareness, and from that use the techniques that are available nowadays to transform on a deep level, emotional, mental, spiritual. And it comes back to the past 100 years, many transformational techniques have been with them. And the Buddha, 2,500 years ago, he didn't have all those techniques. They didn't exist back then. So, yeah, to me, it's the 2.0 version of what we are doing with meditation. By going into some extent into the conditioning, transform something, and then we can continue in meditation and deepen more. So that's basically what we're doing here at Yoga Center.
Right, and I guess like your own transformation that you talked about at the beginning, is very helpful for people to know about, and for you to be able to then share with others. That's quite amazing. So thanks so much, Robert, for sharing with us today. Is there, just before we end, is there any last thought or message you want to share with our audience?
Well, I want to emphasize this link between functional and ethical mindfulness. And there's so many people and also organizations that use mindfulness as a quick fix in order to improve themselves. And it's not about releasing stress as fast as you can or becoming more focused and resilient. These are all benefits. These are all the fruits of your practice. But there's a much deeper layer, and it's so important that you actually do the practice, and do the practice without any thought of gain but just go deep enough inside yourself. The rest is the logical outcome. Practice not only the meditational side of the meditation side of mindfulness, but also the metta, the loving kindness, the karuna, the compassion meditations, and work on those too. And don't just and sit and stand up and everything is still the same in your life, but try to build bridges between your practice and your daily life, and try to actually embody what you are doing in your sits, in your sitting. I think that's if we can get that across, that would be a blessing to me.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thanks again, Robert, for sharing with us. And again, we'll have Robert's given us a PDF, which is in Dutch, if we have any Dutch listeners. And we will also put his different websites for his business and the retreats in case people are interested in learning more about those. But thank you again for sharing and
Yes.
for coming on the summit.